Hello students, welcome to EdAcad. In this video, let us look at the 50 most important MCQs from the surveying topic, and these questions have been taken from Gupta and this is the part 1 in the video series. So let's quickly get started. So the first question is, an inward tape is made of an alloy of, the options are copper and steel, brass and nickel, brass and steel, nickel and steel. So the correct answer will be nickel and steel, and in inward tape the percentage of nickel is 36% and that of steel is 64%. You can keep this in mind. Let's move ahead. Let me clear this. Okay, so the next question says, the principle of working from whole to part is used in surveying because plotting becomes easy. No. Surveying work can be completed quickly. No. Accumulation of errors is prevented. Yes, because when we work from whole to part, the errors get localized. So the option C is correct. I have even made a separate lecture on principle of surveying. You can go and check that out. Let's move ahead. So during the chaining along a straight line, the leaders of the party has 4 arrows in his hand while the follower has 6. So the distance of the follower from the starting point is, so let's understand this. Let's say this is the starting point from where we are going to measure the distance. This is the starting point and we have fixed our arrow here, let's say here also, 1 2 3 4 5 and 6. So the leader will be moving in this direction and the follower will be following him, right? So here it says that the follower has 6 arrows in his hand. So while moving in this direction, follower will be collecting the arrows. So he'll collect 1 2 3 4 5 and 6. When he'll reach here, he'll collect the 6th arrow. So how many chain length he would have measured, like how many chain length he would have progressed from the starting point? 1 2 3 4 5 and 6. So 6 chain length he would have progressed. So the answer would be B. If in question they would have mentioned that one chain length is, let's say, 30 meter, which is the general case, then in that case the answer would have been 180 meter. But since they haven't mentioned the chain length, the answer would be 6 chains. Let's move ahead. Let me clear this. Okay, so the next question says, figure 2.1 shows one of the brass tallies of a 30 meter chain. Distance of this tally from the nearest end of the chain is. So the correct answer would be 10 meter. Let's understand few things here. The brass tallies are provided at every 5 meter distance from the starting point of the chain. So they'll be provided at 5 meter, 10 meter, then 15 meter and so on. So but at the first 5 meter distance, the brass tally which is provided, its shape is something like this. So these two things will not be here, it will only be like this. Okay, so this will be the shape at 5 meter. Then let me clear this. Then this is the shape which you can see here in figure 2.1. This is the shape which is provided at 10 meter. Then at 15 meter, its shape becomes something like this. So this will be same here. Instead of 2, 3 teeth will be there. So the shape will be something like this. So you can keep this thing in mind. And let's move ahead. So for a next question is, for a well-conditioned triangle, no angle should be less than. So for a well-conditioned triangle, the angle of intersection should be between 30 degree and 120 degree. It should not be more than this and it should not be less than this. So the correct answer will be 30 degree. Let's move ahead. The next question says, the main objective of running a tie line is, To check the accuracy of a work? No. For this we have check lines. To take the details of nearby objects? Yes, this will be the correct answer. To take offsets? No, none of the above. So we use tie lines to take the details of the nearby objects. Next, the main difference between an optical square and a prism square is difference in principle of working, that optical square is more accurate than prism square, that no adjustment is required in a prism square since the angle between the reflecting surfaces cannot be changed, all of the above. So the correct answer would be C. So let's understand few things here. In an optical square we have two mirrors and these are placed at an angle of 45 degree, and we need to do some adjustment while taking the measurements in the optical square. But when we use a prism square, we have a prism placed inside this circular tube and these angles are fixed, so we don't need any kind of adjustment here. So that is what the option C says, that no adjustment is required in a prism square since the angle between the reflecting surfaces cannot be changed. So this is the correct option. And also prismatic square is better, like it is more accurate than optical square, so you should keep this in mind. Let's erase this and move ahead. So the permissible error in chaining for a measurement with chain on rough or hilly ground is 1 in 250. This you should just remember and keep this in mind. Next, the correction for sag is, let's understand this. So when we use a chain or a tape, let's say you are using it to measure this distance horizontal, and due to sag the position of the chain or tape will be something like this, right? So the correction formula is true value minus measured value, right? So in this case, what will be the true value? This distance will be the true value, but due to sag, what measurement you will take? This measurement you will take, the sag measurement, so this will become our measured value. So the correction will be equal to true value minus measured value, and you can clearly see that in this case we'll get measured value greater than true value, so the sign of correction will come out to be negative, right? So the correction for sag will always be subtractive. Let's move ahead. So the angle of intersection of two plane mirrors of an optical square is, just now while dealing with this question I explained this, the answer will be 45 degree. Let's move ahead. So the normal tension is that pull which is used at the time of standardizing the tape? No. Neutralizes the effect due to pull and sag? Yes. Makes the correction due to sag and pull equals to 0? Makes the correction due to pull equal to 0. So the correct answer would be B. Let's move ahead. So the maximum tolerance in a 20-meter chain is, so the correct answer will be plus minus 5 mm. Also in case of 30-meter chain, the tolerance is plus minus 8 mm. This you should keep in mind. Let's move ahead. So if the forebearing of a line AB is 35 degree and that of line BC is 15 degree, then the included angle between the lines is. So let's understand the concept of included angles here. So for finding the included angles, you need to keep two things in mind. That included angle is always measured in clockwise direction, and it is measured from previous line to next line. From previous line to next line. Okay, this you should keep in mind. So let's look at the problem. So if the forebearing of line AB is 35 degree, let's plot this. So the forebearing of line AB is given as 35 degree. Let's say this angle is 35 degree. Okay, so this will be our A, this will be our B, and that of BC is 15 degree, so this will go something like this. So this will be RC, and this angle will become 15 degree, right? So then the included angle between the line is, so let's look at these two parameters and try to apply them here. So the included angle will always be measured in clockwise direction, so the clockwise direction either becomes this or this, right? And the second parameter says from previous line to next line. So when we are moving in this direction ABC, our previous line becomes AB and next line becomes BC. So from previous line to next line, so this will be our included angle, right? Let's try to show it in different color. So this will become our included angle. If we would have been moving from C to B to A, then in that case our previous line would have been CB and next line would have been BA, and then for the clockwise direction this would have become our included angle. So for this case, this is our included angle. Let's find this. Since this is 35 degree, so we can easily find out this angle. This will be 90 minus 35. How much will you get? 55 degree. Plus we'll take this angle, this will be 90 degree, this will be 90 degree, right? So we'll add 90 degree, plus we have 15 degree here, so we'll also add this. So I think summing this, we should get it as 160 degree. Option C will be correct. Okay, let's move ahead. So in the prismatic compass, the magnetic needle moves with the box. The line of the sight does not move with the box. The magnetic needle and graduated circle do not move with the box. The graduated circle is fixed to the box and the magnetic needle always remains in the north-south direction. So generally we use two types of compass in surveying. So the first one is prismatic compass, and the second one widely used is the surveyor's compass. Right? So I'll show the pic of both of these compasses. So this is the prismatic compass which you can see in the figure, and this is the surveyor's compass. So now let's discuss some of the differences between these two compasses. So this will be the prismatic compass. Let's write this as PC. Okay, so let us look at some of the differences, the major differences between these two. Let me show you the figure once again. So in the prismatic compass, like you can see here, we have a broad needle which is attached to the circular graduation dial, right? So the graduated dial or the graduated ring is attached to the needle which is of broad needle type, while in the case of surveyor's compass we have a bar edge type needle, and this needle you can see here, it's not attached to the graduation ring, it is free. So the graduation ring in case of surveyor's compass is attached to the box, it's not attached with the needle. So these two differences you might would have noticed. Then the next difference is that in case of prismatic compass we get the reading in whole circle bearing, because the graduations are something like this. So we have north, south, east, west. So we have 0 degree at the south, 90 degree here at the west, then 180 degree here, and then 270 degree here. While in case of surveyor's compass, the graduation is something like this. So here is our north, here is our south, here is our east. You need to remember this, that east in case of surveyor's compass comes on the left side, and then west. And we have 0 degree at north, 0 degree at south, 90 degree at east, and 90 degree at west. So So in case of prismatic compass, we get the reading in whole circle bearing, while in surveyor compass we get it as quadrantal bearing, in quadrantal bearing. Okay. Then the next is that here the graduated ring, the graduations are inverted. The graduations are inverted, while here in the surveyor's compass these are upright. And we more frequently use this prismatic compass. Okay, so now let's come back to our question. So in the prismatic compass, the magnetic needle moves with the box. No, in surveyor compass it moves with the box. The line of sight does not move with the box. The magnetic needle and the graduated circle do not move with the box. Yes, this option is correct. The magnetic needle and the graduation circle are attached to each other and they are placed on the pivot and they do not move with this box. The graduation circle is fixed to the box. No, so this becomes wrong. It is not fixed with the box. It is in the case of surveyor's compass. So the option C will be correct. Let's move ahead. We have our next question related to prismatic compass. The graduation in prismatic compass are inverted. Just now we saw. Yes, are upright in case of surveyor's compass. So this will become wrong. Run clockwise having 0 degree at the south. Yes. Run clockwise having 0 degree at the north. No, this is in the case of surveyor compass. So 1 and 3 option will become correct. Answer A is right. Next, which of the following shown in figure 2.3 represent the correct graduation in surveyor compass? So 90 degree, no, we have 0 degree in case of surveyor compass at north and south, and west east, no, here in this direction east is there. So option D is correct. Just now I showed it in the last slide. Next, the size of a theodolite is specified by the length of the telescope, the diameter of the vertical circle, the diameter of the lower plate, and the diameter of the upper plate. So the size of the theodolite is specified by the diameter of the horizontal circle, and in horizontal circle the diameter of the lower plate. So option C will be the correct answer. Next, a telescope is said to be inverted if it's, so a telescope is said to be upright when the vertical circle falls on the left side of the surveyor. So, and also when the bubble is up. So it will be called as inverted when the vertical circle will be on the right side and the bubble will be down. So let's look at our options. So the vertical circle is to the right, okay, and the bubble is to the down. So option A will be correct. Let us look at other options. Vertical circle is to the right and the bubble is up. No. Vertical circle is to its left. Wrong. It should be at its right. Vertical circle is to its left. Again wrong. So option A is correct. Next, the crosshairs in surveying telescope are placed. So the crosshairs, they are placed. So let's look at the option midway between the eyepiece and the objective lens. So this is the eyepiece, this is the objective lens. Here we have our eye. From here we look. This is our objective lens here. So the crosshair is placed somewhere here. So it is very much close to our eyepiece. So the option much closer to our eyepiece than to the objective lens, much closer to the objective lens than to the option B will be correct, because it is placed much closer to our eyepiece. Next, refraction correction completely eliminates the curvature correction, partially eliminates the curvature correction, adds to the curvature correction, has no effect on the curvature correction. So we know that we have correction due to curvature and we have correction due to refraction. The sign of curvature correction is negative and refraction correction is positive. So when we do the combined correction, so the refraction correction partially eliminates the curvature correction. So option B would be correct. Next, a level was set up at point A and distance to the staff station B was 100 meter. The net combined correction due to curvature and refraction as applied to the staff reading is, so the formula for combined correction is minus 0.0673 d square, right? And d is in kilometers. So let's put d in kilometers. We have 100 meter distance, so it will be 0.1 into 0.1, right, in kilometers, and minus 0.0673. So basically we are dividing minus 0.0673 by 100. So the correct option should be C, minus 0.000673 meters. I think this should be clear. Let's move ahead. While doing leveling in undulating terrain, it is preferable to set the level on the top of the summit, the bottom of the valley, one side of the slope, anywhere. So the correct answer will be one side of the slope. Let's look at the next question. The sensitiveness of a level tube is designated by the radius of level tube, the length of level tube, the length of bubble of level tube, none of the above. So the sensitiveness of level tube is designated by the radius of the level tube. I have also covered this topic, the sensitivity of level tube, in one of the lectures. You can go and check that out. I have clearly explained everything regarding this topic. Okay guys, so that was it for the part 1 of this video. I'll be soon coming out with the next part of this lecture series. If you ended up liking this video, please consider subscribing to the channel and also share this video among your friends. Thank you.